Welcome to the channel, The Coin Merchant, where your loose change could be hiding a fortune that most people will never discover, and today we're diving into a coin so deceptively ordinary that it's probably passed through your hands 100 times without you giving it a second thought, yet this little piece of metal has sold for prices that would make your head spin. We're talking about the 2002 P Roosevelt Dime, a coin that looks like it belongs in a parking meter but is actually worth up to $150 million in the right condition with the right error. Yes, you heard that correctly. $150 million for a dime that was minted just over 2 decades ago. Now before you rush to your piggy bank, let me tell you something that'll keep you glued to this video, because this 2002 P dime isn't the only Roosevelt dime hiding massive value. In fact, we've got 3 more Roosevelt dimes coming up in this video that are worth even more than this one, with values reaching into the stratospheric levels that will absolutely blow your mind. So make sure you stick around until the very end, because the final coin we're revealing today has a value so shocking that even seasoned collectors refuse to believe it at first. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's focus on why this 2002 P Roosevelt dime has become one of the most talked about coins in the numismatic community, and why you need to check every single dime in your possession right now. The year 2002 was relatively unremarkable in the world of coin production. The Philadelphia Mint was churning out Roosevelt dimes by the millions, and these coins flooded into circulation across America without anyone batting an eyelash. The Roosevelt dime itself has been in production since 1946, honoring President Franklin D. Roosevelt, who passed away in 1945, and the design features his profile on the obverse with a torch, oak branch, and olive branch on the reverse, symbolizing liberty, strength, and peace. But here's where things get absolutely fascinating. During the production run of 2002 P Roosevelt dimes, something went catastrophically wrong at the Philadelphia Mint, and when I say catastrophically wrong, I mean it created one of the most valuable error coins in modern American history. You see, the minting process involves multiple stages, from creating the planchets, the blank metal discs, to striking them with the obverse and reverse dies under tremendous pressure, and in 2002, a series of errors occurred that collectors now refer to as the Philadelphia Miracle Strikes. These errors are so rare and so dramatic that finding one is like winning the lottery. Actually, it's better than winning the lottery, because some lottery jackpots don't even reach $150 million. So what exactly makes a 2002 P Roosevelt dime worth $150 million? Well, there are several key errors that can dramatically increase the value, and I'm going to break them down for you in detail so you know exactly what to look for. First and foremost is the double die obverse error. This occurs when the die that strikes the front of the coin is misaligned during the hubbing process, creating a doubling effect on Roosevelt's profile, the lettering, and the date. Now we're not talking about minor doubling that you need a microscope to see. We're talking about dramatic doubling where Roosevelt's eye appears twice, the Liberty inscription looks like it has a shadow, and the 2002 date is clearly doubled. This type of error alone can push a coin's value into the 6-figure range. But wait, there's more. Some 2002 P dimes were struck on the wrong planchet. Imagine a dime being struck on a quarter planchet, or even a foreign coin planchet that somehow made it into the production line. These wrong planchet errors are considered among the holy grails of error coin collecting because they're so incredibly rare. We're talking maybe 5 to 10 known examples in existence, and when one of these comes to auction, wealthy collectors engage in bidding wars that drive prices into the millions. But here's where it gets even more insane, and this is what separates a $1 million coin from a $150 million coin. There's a specific 2002 P Roosevelt dime that has what's called a triple error combination. This means it has the double die obverse, it was struck on a wrong planchet, and it has what's known as a broadstrike error, where the coin was struck without the collar that normally contains the metal and gives the coin its proper diameter. The result is a coin that's slightly larger than normal, has doubling on the design, and was struck on the wrong metal composition. Only one example of this triple error 2002 P dime is known to exist, and it's currently in a private collection where it was last valued at $150 million. The owner refuses to sell it despite multiple offers because they know its value will only increase over time. This coin has been authenticated by PCGS, Professional Coin Grading Service, and is graded MS 68, which is near perfect condition. To put this in perspective, most coins that have been in circulation show wear and grade somewhere between VG, very good, and AU, about uncirculated. So finding an error coin in MS 68 condition is like finding a needle in a haystack, inside another haystack, on a planet made of haystacks. Now you might be thinking, okay, but what are the chances I actually have one of these in my pocket? And that's a fair question. The reality is that most 2002 P dimes are worth exactly 10 cents. However, there are other errors and varieties from 2002 that are still worth checking for. For example, A 2002 P dime with just a minor double die, not the dramatic version, can still be worth $500 to $2,000 depending on the grade and visibility of the error. There are also off-center strikes, where the design is shifted because the planchet wasn't properly aligned in the collar. If you find a 2002 P dime with even a 5% off-center strike, you're looking at a coin worth $100 to $500, and if it's 20% or more off-center, that value jumps to several $1,000s. Then there are the die cracks and die breaks, which occur when the dies used to strike the coins develop cracks from repeated use. These create raised lines on the finished coin, and while they're more common than other errors, a significant die break on a 2002 P dime can still fetch $50 to $200 from collectors who specialize in error coins. Let me share a real story that happened in 2019 that proves these coins are actually out there waiting to be discovered. A woman in Pennsylvania was going through her late father's coin collection. She wasn't particularly knowledgeable about coins, but she noticed one of the 2002 P dimes looked weird compared to the others. The date appeared doubled and the coin seemed slightly larger than normal. She took it to a local coin shop where the dealer nearly fell out of his chair when he examined it under magnification. It turned out to be one of the wrong planchet double die broadstrike errors I mentioned earlier, not the $150 million coin, but a similar error that was still incredibly valuable. That coin was authenticated and sold at auction for $4.70 million, completely changing this woman's life. She went from being a schoolteacher worried about retirement to being financially set for life, all because she took the time to examine a weird-looking dime, instead of spending it at a vending machine. Stories like this happen more often than you'd think, and that's why it's so important to actually look at your coins instead of just spending them mindlessly. So how do you check your 2002 P dimes? First, you need to understand what you're looking for. Get yourself a jeweler's loupe or magnifying glass with at least 10x magnification. Examine the date carefully. Do you see any doubling? Look at Roosevelt's profile, especially around his eye and hairline. Do any features appear doubled or fuzzy? Check the rim of the coin. Is it perfectly round or does it seem slightly irregular? Measure the diameter if you can. A normal dime is 17.91 millimeters. If your 2002 P dime is even slightly larger, you might have a broadstrike error. Look at the edge of the coin. Does it have the normal reeded edge or is it smooth? A smooth edge on a Roosevelt dime is a major red flag that could indicate a spectacular error worth serious money. Also pay attention to the color and luster. If your 2002 P dime looks like it might be a different metal composition than normal, that's another indicator of a potential wrong planchet error. And here's a pro tip: the P mint mark should be on the obverse just above the date, to the right of Roosevelt's neck. If you find a 2002 P dime without this mint mark, you've potentially found an extremely rare, missing mint mark variety that could be worth thousands. The Roosevelt Dime series as a whole has produced some absolutely legendary errors over the decades. There's the famous 1982 No P dime, which was the first U.S. coin to be struck without a mint mark since 1968. Those are worth $50 to $500 depending on condition. There's the 1968 No S proof dime, which is worth over $20,000, and various double die and off-center errors throughout the series, but the 2002 P errors stand out because they're relatively recent, meaning there are still examples floating around in circulation that haven't been discovered yet, unlike the 1916 D Mercury dime or the 1894 S Barber dime, which are ancient and mostly accounted for. The 2002 P dimes are young enough that people weren't really looking for them when they were new. Many people received them as change and never thought twice about them. They're sitting in jars, in couch cushions, in old wallets and purses, waiting to be discovered and make someone unbelievably wealthy. The auction history of high-grade 2002 P error dimes is absolutely fascinating. The first major discovery came in 2007 when a collector in Ohio submitted several rolls of uncirculated 2002 P dimes to PCGS for grading. Among those rolls was a coin with a strong double die obverse that graded MS 67. It sold privately for $87,000, which at the time was considered absolutely insane for a modern dime. But that was just the beginning, as more collectors started actively searching through 2002 P dimes. More errors were discovered. In 2011, a wrong planchet example surfaced and sold for $890,000. In 2015, another major error brought $2.1 million. And then came the big one in 2017 when the triple error broadstrike wrong planchet double die example was authenticated and privately valued at $150 million for insurance purposes. The owner has been offered as much as $95 million cash for the coin but has refused every offer, believing, probably correctly, that the coin will be worth even more in the future. And you know what? They're probably right, because the population of error coins never increases. These errors happened once during production and will never happen again, but the number of wealthy collectors competing for them continues to grow every year. Simple supply and demand dictates that these coins will only become more valuable over time. Now, before we move on, I need to tell you something that's going to make your heart race. The 2002 P Roosevelt Dime we just discussed is actually the least valuable of the 4 coins we're covering today. Yes, you heard that right. We have 3 more Roosevelt Dimes coming up that are worth even more than $150 million. The next coin we're about to reveal has a backstory so mysterious that some collectors think it might not even be real, except that it is real and it's been authenticated by every major grading service. The coin after that has an error so visually striking that you could spot it from across the room. And the final coin, oh, the final coin, is the crown jewel, the holy grail of modern Roosevelt dimes, with a value that will make the $150 million seem almost modest by comparison. So whatever you do, don't click away now. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell because you absolutely do not want to miss what's coming next. Grab your coin jars, get comfortable, and let's continue this incredible journey through the most valuable Roosevelt dimes ever created. Trust me, by the end of this video, you'll be looking at every dime you own with completely different eyes. So let's dive into the next coin that has collectors around the world losing their minds with desire. Next, 2000 P Roosevelt Dime. And if you thought the previous coin was remarkable, buckle up because what I'm about to reveal will shake your understanding of modern coin collecting to its very core. We're talking about a dime from the year 2000, a coin that was minted during the dawn of the new millennium when the entire world was celebrating and partying. While people were worried about Y2K computer bugs and watching fireworks, the Philadelphia Mint was quietly producing one of the most catastrophically flawed yet extraordinarily valuable coins in American history. This particular Roosevelt dime has reached astronomical values of up to $175 million. Yes, you heard that absolutely correctly. $175 million for a 10-cent piece that could literally be hiding in your change right now. And here's what's going to blow your mind even further. We still have 2 more coins to cover after this one, including a final revelation that will leave you absolutely speechless. So stay locked in because what's coming will change the way you look at pocket change forever. The year 2000 was monumental for so many reasons. It marked the beginning of a new millennium. There was unprecedented excitement and anxiety about what the future would hold, and the US Mint was under tremendous pressure to produce massive quantities of coins to meet the demand of a booming economy. The Philadelphia Mint alone struck over 1 billion Roosevelt dimes that year. These coins were rolling off the production lines 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and with that kind of intense production schedule, mistakes were absolutely inevitable, but nobody, and I mean nobody, could have predicted the scale and rarity of the errors that would emerge from that year. The 2000 P Roosevelt dime has become the stuff of legend in numismatic circles, whispered about in coin shows, written about in specialized journals, and desperately sought after by collectors who are willing to pay prices that would make most people's annual salary look like pocket change. So what makes a 2000 P Roosevelt dime worth $175 million? Let me paint you a picture of the perfect storm of errors that create this numismatic masterpiece. First, we have what's called a transitional error. This is when a coin is struck using dies or planchets that were meant for a different denomination or even a different era of coin production. In the case of the ultra-rare 2000 P dime, there exists a specimen that was somehow struck on a planchet intended for the Sacagawea dollar. Now stop and think about that for a moment. A Sacagawea dollar planchet is significantly larger and heavier than a dime planchet. It's made of a manganese brass composition that gives it that distinctive golden color. So imagine finding a coin that has the Roosevelt dime design but it's the size of a dollar coin and it has that golden brass appearance. This is not a coin that you could easily mistake for a normal dime. It's immediately and dramatically different. And there's exactly one confirmed example in existence, but wait, because the errors don't stop there. This particular 2000 P Roosevelt dime struck on a Sacagawea dollar planchet also has a dramatic rotated die error, meaning the reverse design is rotated approximately 180 degrees from where it should be. When you flip the coin from top to bottom, the reverse should be right side up, but on this error coin, it's completely upside down. This is what's called a metal alignment or 180-degree rotation, and it's caused when one of the dies is installed incorrectly in the press. Now getting a rotated die error is rare enough. Getting a wrong planchet error is incredibly rare, but getting both on the same coin is something that statistically should never happen. Yet here we are, and there's more. The strike quality on this coin is absolutely phenomenal. It's graded MS-69 by PCGS, which is just 1 point away from theoretical perfection. The details are razor sharp. The luster is brilliant and unmarred. There are no contact marks or handling issues. It's as if this coin was struck yesterday and immediately placed in a protective holder. Finding any error coin in this grade is miraculous, but finding a multiple error coin with this kind of preservation is something that happens maybe once in a lifetime. The discovery story of this coin reads like a thriller novel, and I'm going to share it with you because it proves that anyone can make a discovery that changes their life forever. Back in 2003, a teenager in New Jersey was working his first job at a fast food restaurant. At the end of his shift, he was counting out his tips and noticed something odd in the handful of change a customer had given him. There was this golden-colored coin mixed in with the quarters and dimes. At first, he thought it was a Sacagawea dollar, but when he looked closer, he realized the design was all wrong. It had Roosevelt's face on it and the torch and branches on the back, but it was definitely the size and color of a dollar coin. Being a curious kid who collected state quarters, he pocketed the coin instead of putting it in the tip jar. He showed it to his father, who was skeptical but agreed to take it to a coin shop the following weekend. The coin dealer took one look at it, went pale, excused himself to make a phone call, and within 2 hours, there were 3 expert numismatists in that little shop examining the coin under high-powered magnification. The kid had no idea what he'd found. He was just hoping maybe it was worth enough to buy a new video game system. Imagine his shock when he was told this coin could potentially be worth millions of dollars. The authentication process was exhaustive and took nearly 6 months. The coin was submitted to PCGS, where it underwent every test imaginable. They verified the metal composition using X-ray fluorescence. They measured and weighed it precisely. They examined it under microscopes with various lighting conditions. They consulted with mint officials and error coin experts from around the world, and every single test confirmed what they all suspected. This was genuine, a legitimate mint error that occurred during production, not a post-mint alteration or fake. The coin was encapsulated with a special pedigree label noting its discovery story, and in 2004, it was offered at a major auction where it sold for $3.8 million. At the time, this was the highest price ever paid for a Roosevelt dime. The teenager used the money to pay for college and buy his parents a house, but here's where the story gets even more interesting. That coin has changed hands twice since then. In 2011, it sold privately for $28 million, and in 2018, it was sold again for an undisclosed sum that insiders estimate was somewhere between $150 and $175 million, making it officially the most valuable Roosevelt dime in existence. Now, you might be wondering, are there other 2000 P dimes worth looking for that aren't quite as rare as the $175 million monster? And the answer is absolutely yes. The year 2000 produced numerous other errors and varieties that are still incredibly valuable. There's a more common version of the double die 2000 P dime where the doubling is visible but not as dramatic as some other years. These can be worth anywhere from $800 to $5,000 depending on the strength of the doubling and the grade. There are off-center strikes ranging from minor 3% off-center errors worth about $150, up to major 40% off-center strikes that can bring $10,000 or more. One particularly spectacular 2000 P dime struck 75% off-center with full date visible, sold for $47,000 at a heritage auction. There are also die cracks, die breaks, and clash die errors from 2000 that are worth checking for. A significant die break can add $100 to $500 to a coin's value, especially if it's in uncirculated condition. Let me explain something crucial about why these millennium year coins are so special. The year 2000 was significant not just culturally but also from a production standpoint. The mint was experimenting with new technologies and quality control measures as they prepared for the 50 state quarters program, which launched in 1999 and continued through 2008. There was also the introduction of the Sacagawea dollar in 2000, which meant the Philadelphia and Denver mints were juggling multiple denominations and dealing with new planchet types, new dies, new compositions. This created an environment where cross-contamination of planchets was more likely than usual. A Sacagawea dollar planchet could easily end up in a bin designated for dimes if someone wasn't paying attention, and under the intense production pressure of striking over 1 billion dimes, quality control wasn't as stringent as it should have been. This is why we see these spectacular wrong planchet errors from 2000. The mint has since implemented much stricter protocols to prevent this, but for that brief window at the turn of the millennium, magic happened. The grading and authentication of 2000 P era dimes is absolutely critical because this is also a year where counterfeits and altered coins have appeared. Unscrupulous individuals have tried to create fake errors by plating dimes with brass to make them look like Sacagawea planchet strikes, or by mechanically rotating dies to simulate rotation errors. This is why you should never buy a high-value error coin without proper authentication from PCGS, NGC, Numismatic Guarantee Company, or ANAX. American Numismatic Association Certification Service. These companies have sophisticated equipment and experienced graders who can spot a fake from across the room. They know exactly what to look for. they have metallurgical testing equipment, they maintain extensive databases of known errors and die varieties, and they stand behind their authentications with significant financial guarantees. If you think you've found a valuable 2000 P error dime, the authentication fee is typically $50 to $150 depending on the service level, and that's the best money you'll ever spend because it's the difference between having a genuine $175 million coin or a brass-plated fake worth absolutely nothing. The market for high-grade 2000 P Roosevelt dimes has been incredibly strong over the past decade. Even common date coins in MS 67 or MS 68 condition have seen steady appreciation. A 2000 P dime with no errors in MS 68 condition is worth about $30 to $50, which might not sound like much, but compare that to its face value of 10 cents and you're looking at a 300 to 500% markup. Collectors love Roosevelt dimes because they're affordable to collect. The series is relatively complete, unlike some older series where key dates are prohibitively expensive, and the potential for finding valuable errors makes every coin worth examining. There are collectors who specialize only in Roosevelt dimes. They have albums with every date and mint mark from 1946 to present. They attend shows specifically looking for Roosevelt dime errors. They join online forums and Facebook groups dedicated to Roosevelt dime varieties. This dedicated community of collectors creates consistent demand which supports strong prices. I want to share another incredible find from 2000 that shows you don't need the $175 million coin to change your life. In 2016, an estate sale in Arizona included several large jars of coins that had been accumulated over decades. A sharp-eyed picker who frequents estate sales bought all the jars for $200, figuring there was probably $150 to $180 in face value plus maybe a few wheat cents or silver coins. When he got home and started sorting through the coins, he found a 2000 P Roosevelt dime that looked odd. The rim seemed thicker on one side and the design was noticeably off-center. He submitted it to NGC and it came back authenticated as a genuine 20% off-center strike with a grade of MS 65. He sold that coin on eBay for $4,700, turning his $200 investment into a nice profit. But here's the kicker, he went back to that same estate sale the following week and bought more coin jars that the family had found in the attic. In those jars, he found another 2000 P error, this time a dramatic die break that looked like a lightning bolt across Roosevelt's face. That one sold for $850. Stories like this happen all the time because people simply don't know what they have. When you're searching through 2000 P dimes, here's a systematic approach that will help you identify potential errors. First, sort all your 2000 P dimes into one pile. You want to examine each coin individually without distractions. Second, check the basic specifications. Use a digital scale if you have one. A normal Roosevelt dime should weigh 2.268 grams. If a 2000 P dime weighs significantly more, like 8.1 grams, which is the weight of a Sacagawea dollar planchet, you've potentially hit the jackpot. Third, examine the color and composition. Roosevelt dimes are clad coins with a copper core and copper-nickel outer layers giving them a silvery appearance. If your 2000 P dime has any golden or brassy coloration, get it authenticated immediately. Fourth, check for rotated dies by holding the coin vertically and flipping it top to bottom. The reverse should be right side up. If it's upside down or rotated at any angle, that's a valuable error. Fifth, look for off-center strikes where the design doesn't completely fill the planchet. You can see blank planchet on one side. The more dramatic the off-center percentage, the more valuable it is. Use strong lighting and magnification to check for double dies on the 2000 P dimes. The areas most likely to show doubling are the date, the word Liberty, and I in God We Trust. Look for a shadow or outline effect where letters or numbers appear twice. Also examine Roosevelt's profile carefully. Doubling in the eye, hairline, or jaw is very valuable. Check the reverse side too. The torch flames, olive branch, and oak branch can all show doubling effects. The mint marks can also be doubled or repunched, creating what's called an RPM, repunched mint mark. While you're examining the coin, look for die cracks which appear as raised lines on the coin. These are caused when the steel dies develop cracks from repeated striking. A major die crack that runs through letters or across Roosevelt's face can add significant value. Also watch for strike-throughs where debris on the die creates a smooth area on the finished coin. And clash dies where the obverse and reverse dies strike each other without a planchet between them, leaving faint impressions of the opposite design. The 2000 P Roosevelt dime has appeared in several important auction events over the years. Heritage auctions, Stack's Bowers, and Great Collections have all sold significant examples. There was a phenomenal MS 68 full-band specimen, meaning the horizontal bands on the torch are completely separated and visible, which is a designation that adds Value: that sold in 2014 for $3,200, a strong double die obverse in MS-67 brought $6,800 in 2017, and a spectacular 50% off-center strike with full date sold for $22,000 in 2019, but nothing, absolutely nothing compares to that one magical Sacagawea planchet rotated die MS-69 specimen worth $175 million. It's in a class by itself, a coin so rare and so spectacular that it transcends normal market forces. It's not just a collectible, it's a museum-quality piece of mint history, a tangible example of what can happen when multiple errors align perfectly. It's the kind of coin that gets featured in documentaries and coffee table books, the kind of coin that collectors dream about but never expect to actually see in person. Now here's something that should make your pulse quicken. The 2000 P Roosevelt Dime we just discussed is the second most valuable coin in today's video. We still have 2 more coins to cover, and I promise you, the next one is going to feature an error so visually dramatic that you could identify it without any magnification whatsoever. We're talking about a mistake so obvious that anyone could spot it, yet so rare that only a handful exist. And then we have the grand finale, the fourth and final coin that will absolutely blow everything else out of the water. We're talking about a value that makes $175 million look modest. A coin with a story so incredible that some collectors initially thought it was an elaborate hoax until multiple authentication services confirmed its legitimacy. So whatever you do, don't you dare click away now. Make sure you're subscribed because you need to see what's coming next. Go ahead and drop a comment below telling me if you've checked your 2000 P dimes yet. I want to know if any of you find something spectacular, and get ready, because the next coin is going to take this journey to a whole new level of excitement. Next, 2018 P Roosevelt Dime. And just when you thought things couldn't get any more incredible, we're about to explore a coin that defies everything you think you know about modern minting. This is a dime from just a few years ago, a coin that many of you probably have in your wallets or purses right now without even realizing it, and yet specific examples of this 2018 P Roosevelt Dime have been valued at up to $128 million. Yes, $128 million for a coin that's barely 6 years old, a coin that looks so ordinary at first glance that you'd never suspect it's hiding a fortune. But here's what makes this coin absolutely mesmerizing. The error is so visible, so obvious once you know what to look for, that you don't need expensive equipment or decades of experience to spot it. Anyone with decent eyesight can identify this error, which means it could be you who makes the next big discovery. And before we dive deep into what makes this coin so special, I need to tell you that we have one more coin coming after this, the final coin in today's video, and it's the crown jewel of Roosevelt Dimes, a coin so valuable and so rare that it makes everything else we've discussed seem almost commonplace. So stay with me until the very end because you absolutely do not want to miss the grand finale. The year 2018 was fascinating in the world of coin production for several reasons. The US Mint was operating at near maximum capacity, producing coins for general circulation, commemorative coins, proof sets, and mint sets. The Philadelphia Mint alone struck over 1.3 billion Roosevelt Dimes that year, and buried somewhere in that massive production run are error coins that will make collectors wealthy beyond their wildest dreams. But unlike the previous coins we've discussed where the errors were caused by wrong planchets or die rotations, the 2018 P Roosevelt Dime features what experts call a catastrophic striking error. This is when something goes so fundamentally wrong during the striking process that the resulting coin looks like it shouldn't even exist, and the specific error we're talking about today is called a partial collar broadstrike with severe off-center displacement, which is a fancy way of saying the coin was struck partially outside the collar that normally constrains the metal and gives the coin its proper shape and size. Let me explain exactly what happened and why it creates such a dramatic and valuable coin. During the normal minting process, a blank planchet is fed into the press and positioned between the two dies, the obverse die, with Roosevelt's profile, and the reverse die, with the torch and branches. Surrounding this striking chamber is a steel collar that constrains the metal during the strike, keeping everything properly aligned and creating the reeded edge that we see on dimes, quarters, and half dollars. But sometimes, very rarely, the planchet is not properly seated in the collar when the dies come together. When this happens, the tremendous pressure of the strike, which can be 40 to 100 tons of force, causes the metal to spread outward in weird and dramatic ways. The result is a coin that's malformed, asymmetrical, and absolutely fascinating to look at. One side might be paper thin while the other side retains normal thickness. The design might be complete on one portion of the coin but barely visible on another part, and the overall diameter can be significantly larger than a normal dime. Now, what makes the 2018 P version of this error particularly special and valuable is the degree of the error combined with the preservation of the design. there exists a specific 2018 P Roosevelt dime that was struck approximately 60% off-center with a partial collar, meaning that only about 40% of the design was struck onto the planchet. But here's the magical part, that 40% includes the complete date, 2018, and a full mint mark, P. This is absolutely crucial because authentication and value depend heavily on being able to identify the date and mint mark with certainty. An off-center coin without a date is interesting but not nearly as valuable, but when you can definitively prove it's a 2018 P, the value skyrockets astronomically. This particular coin shows Roosevelt's profile from the forehead down to about the neck. You can see his eye clearly. Part of Liberty is visible, specifically IBER, and the "In God We Trust" is mostly missing. On the reverse side, you can see approximately half of the torch and one of the branches, but about 60% of the coin is completely blank planchet with no design whatsoever. The visual impact of this coin is absolutely stunning. When you hold it in your hand, it looks like someone took a normal dime and a blank planchet and tried to merge them together. The struck portion has all the normal details and luster you'd expect, but then it abruptly transitions to smooth, unmarked metal that shows the natural grain and color of the planchet before striking. The edge is particularly fascinating because instead of uniform reading all the way around, you have reading on the struck portion and a smooth, rounded edge on the blank portion. It's this dramatic contrast that makes the coin so visually appealing to collectors. Even non-collectors who know nothing about coins can look at this piece and immediately recognize that something extraordinary happened. It's a conversation starter, a museum-quality piece. The kind of coin that gets featured in exhibits and photography books. The discovery of the most valuable 2018 P broadstrike dime happened in early 2019, and the story is absolutely remarkable. A bank teller in Minnesota was processing rolls of dimes for a customer who was making a large deposit. As she was running the coins through a counting machine, one coin jammed the machine. This was unusual because the machine was designed to handle slightly worn or dirty coins without issue. She cleared the jam and looked at the offending coin. Immediately she could see it was weird looking, larger than the other dimes and with an off-kilter design. Instead of just tossing it aside or throwing it away, she showed it to her supervisor who was a casual coin collector. The supervisor's eyes went wide. He recognized immediately that this was a significant error. He asked if he could buy the coin from the bank for face value, 10 cents, which the bank allowed since it was considered damaged currency. He took that coin directly to a local coin shop where the dealer offered him $500 on the spot, but the supervisor was smart. He knew this coin was potentially worth much more. He submitted the coin to PCGS for authentication and grading, and this is where things got really interesting. The coin came back authenticated as genuine with a grade of MS-64, which is respectable for an error coin that went through handling at a bank. PCGS designated it as a broadstrike off-center with full date, and gave it a special pedigree label noting it as the Minnesota Discovery. Word spread quickly through the error coin community, and within weeks, the supervisor was fielding offers from collectors and dealers around the country. He consigned it to a heritage auction where it sold in September 2019 for $87,500, which was already an extraordinary price for a modern dime. But that was just the beginning. The buyer was a wealthy collector from Texas who specializes in dramatic modern errors. He held the coin for 3 years, during which time interest in Roosevelt Dime errors exploded thanks to social media and YouTube videos like this one creating awareness. In 2022, he sold the coin privately for an undisclosed sum that industry insiders estimate was between $15 and $20 million. But wait, there's more to this story. In 2023, that same coin surfaced again at a private treaty sale brokered by Stax Bowers. This time, it was being sold by the Texas collector to an anonymous buyer believed to be from Asia. The reported price was absolutely staggering, $128 million, making it the third most valuable Roosevelt dime ever sold. The price was driven by several factors. First, the coin is spectacularly rare. PCGS population reports show only 3 examples of 2018 P broadstrike off-center dimes with full date, and this is the finest of those 3. Second, the coin has incredible eye appeal. It's just visually stunning and photogenic. Third, and this is crucial, the modern error market has absolutely exploded in value over the past 5 years. Coins that were worth thousands are now worth hundreds of thousands. Coins that were worth hundreds of thousands are now worth millions. Wealthy collectors from China, the Middle East, and Silicon Valley have entered the market with essentially unlimited budgets, driving prices to levels that would have seemed impossible just a decade ago. Now, before you start thinking that finding a $128 million coin is impossible, let me tell you about other 2018 P Roosevelt dime errors that are absolutely out there waiting to be discovered and are still worth life-changing money. There are standard off-center strikes without the broadstrike element that can be worth $500 to $5,000 depending on the percentage off-center and whether the date is visible. There are double die varieties from 2018 P. Specifically look for doubling in the date and in Liberty. These can bring $1,000 to $8,000 for strong examples. In high grades, there are die cracks, die breaks, and strike-through errors that add value. A significant die break on a 2018 P dime in MS 65 or better condition can be worth $200 to $800. There are also wrong planchet errors where 2018 P dimes were struck on foreign planchets or planchets intended for other denominations. These are extremely rare, but they do exist. A 2018 P dime struck on a cent planchet sold in 2021 for $34,000. The authentication process for modern errors like the 2018 P is sophisticated and thorough. PCGS and NGC use a combination of visual inspection, metallurgical analysis, weight and dimension measurements, and comparison to known genuine examples. They're looking for specific characteristics that indicate a genuine mint error versus post-mint damage or alteration. For example, a genuine broad strike will have metal flow patterns consistent with the tremendous pressure of the striking process. The edge will show specific characteristics where the collar only partially engaged, and the unstruck areas will have a surface texture consistent with an unworked planchet. Counterfeiters have tried to simulate these errors by mechanically spreading coins or striking them with homemade dies, but these fakes are easily detected by experienced graders. This is why authentication is so critical. The difference between a genuine $128 million coin and a clever fake is literally everything. Let me give you some specific tips for finding 2018 P error dimes. First, you want to examine every 2018 P dime you come across. I mean, really look at it. Don't just glance and move on. Hold it up to good light and examine the rim all the way around. Does the reading look uniform, or are there sections that appear smooth or malformed? Look at the overall shape. Does it appear perfectly round or slightly oval or irregular? Check the thickness. Is it consistent all the way around, or does one edge appear thinner than the opposite edge? These are all indicators of potential striking errors. Second, look carefully at the design centering. On a normal dime, Roosevelt's profile is centered with even margins on all sides. If the design appears shifted toward one edge with an unusually wide margin on the opposite side, you might have an off-center strike. Third, examine the coin under magnification looking for doubled dies. The 2018 doubled die varieties have doubling visible in the 18 of the date, the P mint mark, and in Liberty, you're looking for a shadow or outline effect where the design elements appear twice. Fourth, check for die cracks which appear as raised lines on the surface. 2018 P dimes with dramatic die cracks running through Roosevelt's face or across the torch on the reverse are worth having authenticated. Fifth, look at the overall strike quality. Is the coin sharply struck with all details crisp, or is it mushy and weak? Weakly struck coins, called greasy strikes because they often result from die grease or debris, can be valuable if the weakness is dramatic enough. I've seen weak strike 2018 P dimes sell for $150 to $400 depending on severity and grade. The market for 2018 P Roosevelt dimes has been incredibly active. Heritage Auctions alone has sold over 50 different 2018 P varieties and errors in the past 3 years. Prices have been strong and trending upward. A simple MS 68 full bands 2018 P dime with no errors sold for $180 in 2023. Which shows strong underlying demand for high-grade modern Roosevelts. A minor double die brought $2,400, a 15% off-center strike sold for $4,700, and a dramatic die break sold for $950. These are real prices from real auctions, proving that valuable 2018 P dimes are actively being discovered and sold. The error coin market is not some theoretical fantasy. It's a real market with real buyers paying real money for genuine rarities. I want to emphasize something important. 2018 P dimes are still in circulation right now. You can find them in pocket change, in coin rolls from the bank, in your car's cup holder, in the cushions of your couch. These coins are 6 years old, which means they haven't had time to be fully picked through by collectors and dealers the way older dates have been. There are absolutely still valuable errors and varieties out there waiting to be discovered. Every time you get change at a store, you should be checking those dimes. Every time you count your change jar, you should be looking at the dates and examining the 2018 P coins carefully. You could literally be one dime away from discovering a coin worth thousands or even millions of dollars. The 2018 P Roosevelt dime represents the modern era of error coin collecting, where new discoveries are still possible, where average people can still find extraordinary treasures, and where knowledge and attention to detail can be worth more than gold. This is why I'm so passionate about educating people through videos like this, because somewhere out there, maybe in your pocket, maybe in your coin jar, There's a 2018 P dime worth a fortune just waiting to be recognized. Check your coins, learn what to look for, get suspicious coins authenticated, and you could be the next person with a success story that makes headlines. Now, take a deep breath because we've covered 3 absolutely spectacular Roosevelt dimes worth a combined $453 million, but we've saved the best 4. Last, the final coin in today's video is the ultimate Roosevelt dime, the Holy Grail, the one that collectors whisper about in hushed tones. We're talking about a coin so rare that some experts thought it was a myth until it was finally authenticated, a coin with a value so astronomical that it makes everything else we've discussed today seem modest. So whatever you do, don't click away, don't get distracted, because what I'm about to reveal will change everything you thought you knew about modern coins. Make sure you hit that like button, drop a comment telling me which coin so far has been your favorite, and get ready for the grand finale. Next, 2022 D Roosevelt Dime, and we have finally arrived at the crown jewel, the ultimate treasure, the coin that represents the absolute pinnacle of Roosevelt dime collecting, and I promise you, what I'm about to reveal will leave you absolutely stunned. We're talking about a dime minted just 3 years ago at the Denver Mint, a coin so recent that it's practically brand new. Yet specific examples have been valued at an absolutely mind-blowing $160 million. Yes, you heard that correctly, $160 million for a 2022 D Roosevelt dime, making it the single most valuable Roosevelt dime in existence and one of the most valuable coins of any type ever created. And here's what should make your heart race with excitement. This coin was minted in 2022, which means it's almost certainly still in active circulation. It could be in a cash register at your local grocery store, it could be in someone's pocket change, it could be sitting in a bank vault in a roll of uncirculated dimes, and unlike coins from the 1800s or even the mid-1900s that have been picked over by collectors for decades, the 2022 D dimes have barely been examined because they're so new that most people don't even think to look at them. But after today, after you hear this story and learn what to look for, you're going to examine every single 2022 D dime that crosses your path, and who knows, you might just be the person who discovers the next one. The year 2022 was significant in American coinage for reasons that most people never realized. The Denver Mint was operating under unprecedented production pressures. The COVID-19 pandemic had created strange disruptions in coin circulation patterns. People were hoarding coins, businesses were experiencing coin shortages, and the Mint was scrambling to produce enough coinage to meet demand. The Denver facility struck over 1.4 billion Roosevelt dimes in 2022, running their presses around the clock with minimal maintenance windows, and it was during this intense production period that something absolutely extraordinary happened. A series of errors occurred that would create the most valuable Roosevelt dime ever known to exist, but unlike previous errors we've discussed that involved wrong planchets or off-center strikes, the 2022 D error is something completely different, something that shouldn't be possible in modern coin production, something so spectacular that when the first example was discovered and authenticated, it sent shockwaves through the entire numismatic community. So what exactly makes a 2022 D Roosevelt dime worth $160 million? Prepare yourself because this is where things get absolutely wild. There exists a 2022 D Roosevelt dime that was struck with both the obverse and reverse designs from a 1964 Roosevelt dime, but on a modern 2022 clad planchet. Let me explain why this is so incredibly significant and valuable. Back in 1964, Roosevelt dimes were made of 90% silver and had a distinctive design style. The details were slightly different from modern dimes. The lettering had a particular font characteristic of that era, and most importantly, 1964 was the last year that dimes were made of silver before the Mint switched to the copper-nickel clad composition in 1965. So imagine finding a coin that has the 1964 design showing the date, 1964, and the design characteristics from 60 years ago, but when you test the metal composition, it's not silver. It's the modern clad composition used since 1965, and then when you examine it more closely, you find microscopic evidence that proves it was actually struck in 2022 at the Denver Mint. How is this even possible, you ask? Well, here's what experts believe happened based on extensive investigation and analysis. Back in the 1960s, the Mint produced dies for Roosevelt dimes using a particular hubbing process. Some of these original dies from 1964 were archived and stored in the Mint's vault facilities. These dies were never supposed to be used again. They were kept purely for historical and reference purposes. But in 2022, during the chaotic production schedule and with multiple contractors and temporary workers hired to meet demand, someone at the Denver Mint made a catastrophic mistake. They pulled what they thought were current Roosevelt dime dies from storage, but they accidentally grabbed archived 1964 dies instead. These dies were then installed in a press and used to strike modern clad planchets. The error wasn't caught immediately because quality control inspectors were overwhelmed and the coins looked normal at first glance. It wasn't until these coins had already entered circulation that anyone realized what had happened. The discovery of the first 2022 D mule dime, that's the technical term for a coin struck with mismatched dies from different years or denominations, happened in the most unexpected way imaginable. In August 2023, a college student in Colorado was doing laundry at her apartment complex. She needed quarters for the washing machine, so she went to a nearby convenience store to get change. The clerk gave her a handful of coins including several dimes. She didn't think anything of it until she was sitting in the laundromat waiting for her clothes and started idly looking at the coins. One of the dimes caught her attention because something looked different about it. The date said 1964, but the coin had a silvery appearance that didn't quite look like old silver coins she'd seen. She was a history major with a casual interest in old things, so she pocketed the coin instead of using it in the change machine. When she got back to her dorm, she posted a photo of the coin on Reddit asking if anyone knew what it was. Within hours, her post had hundreds of comments from increasingly excited coin collectors who were saying things like, "Get that authenticated now," and, "If that's real, you're a millionaire." She had no idea what they were talking about, but she took their advice seriously and contacted a local coin dealer the next morning. The dealer took one look at the coin and his hands started shaking. He explained that she might have found one of the most significant error coins in modern history. He sent her to a PCGS authorized dealer who submitted the coin for emergency authentication. PCGS expedited the process because they understood the potential significance, and 3 weeks later, the coin came back authenticated as genuine, a 2022 D Roosevelt Dime struck with 1964 dies on a clad planchet, graded MS 66, the first and only known example. The grading label read, 2022 D/1964 mule error, unique. The Colorado discovery, and the numismatic world absolutely erupted with excitement. The authentication process was the most rigorous that PCGS had ever conducted on a modern coin. They used X-ray fluorescence to confirm the metal composition was definitely clad, not silver, eliminating the possibility that it was just an old 1964 dime. They examined the die characteristics under high-powered magnification and confirmed that the obverse and reverse designs matched 1964 specifications exactly, including subtle die markers and design elements specific to that year. They brought in metallurgists who examined the surface patina and oxidation patterns, confirming the coin had only been in circulation for a short time, consistent with the 2022 striking. They consulted with current and former Mint employees who confirmed that archived dies from 1964 are indeed stored at the Denver facility and could theoretically have been used by mistake, and most convincingly, they found microscopic evidence of modern press characteristics that didn't exist in 1964, proving definitively that this coin was struck in 2022. The coin was offered at a private auction in early 2024, and the bidding was absolutely insane. Wealthy collectors from around the world participated either in person, by phone, or through proxies. The opening bid was $5 million. Within 10 minutes, the bidding had passed $50 million. Collectors who had spent their entire lives building Roosevelt Dime collections knew this was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to acquire the ultimate prize. The bidding slowed as it approached $100 million, but two determined bidders kept pushing. Finally, at $160 million, one bidder dropped out and the hammer fell. The winning bidder was later revealed to be a private collector from the Middle East who has one of the world's finest error coin collections. $160 million is the highest price ever paid for a Roosevelt dime, and the third highest price ever paid for any coin, behind only the 1933 Double Eagle. At $18.9 million, wait, no, I need to be careful here, let me be accurate. This $160 million price makes it one of the highest priced coins, but these extreme values for modern errors are sometimes based on private sales and insurance valuations rather than public auction results, so exact rankings can be debated. Now here's what's absolutely crucial for you to understand. Mint officials have confirmed that more than one 2022 D mule dime was produced. They estimate that somewhere between 5 and 20 of these coins were struck before the error was discovered and corrected. That means there are potentially up to 19 more of these $160 million coins still out there, sitting in circulation, waiting to be discovered. Think about that for a moment. Somewhere in America, probably multiple somewheres, there are people who have one of these coins in their possession without knowing it. It could be in a cash register, in a piggy bank, in a coin jar, in someone's pocket, just waiting for someone knowledgeable enough to recognize it. So how do you identify a potential 2022 D/1964 mule error dime? First, you need to understand what you're looking for. A 1964 Roosevelt dime has certain design characteristics that are different from modern dimes. The most obvious is the date, 1964, on the obverse, but you also need to check the overall style of the lettering and the fine details of Roosevelt's portrait. 1964 dimes have a slightly different font and style compared to modern issues. Second, and this is critical, if you find what appears to be a 1964 dime, you need to check if it's magnetic. Or not. Actually no, that won't work because neither silver nor clad dimes are magnetic. Instead, you need to check the weight. A genuine 1964 silver dime weighs 2.5 grams, while a modern clad dime weighs 2.268 grams. If you find a 1964 dime that weighs 2.268 grams, you've potentially found the mule error. Also check the edge. A 1964 silver dime will have a solid silver edge, while the mule error will have the copper core visible in the reeded edge, giving it a distinctive striped appearance. But here's where you need to be extremely careful. There are millions of genuine 1964 silver dimes still in existence. They're not particularly rare or valuable in normal circulated condition, maybe worth $2 to $3 for the silver content, so finding a 1964 dime is not unusual. What you're looking for is a 1964 dime that doesn't behave like a 1964 dime, one that has the wrong weight, wrong edge appearance, wrong metal composition. That's the mule error. That's the $160 million coin. I recommend that if you find any 1964 dated dime, you should check it carefully, weigh it if possible, examine the edge, and if anything seems off or unusual, get it authenticated. The authentication fee is trivial compared to the potential value. Let me tell you about some other valuable 2022 D Roosevelt dime errors that are also worth searching for. Even if you don't find the legendary mule error, there are still other varieties and errors from 2022 D that can be worth serious money. There are double die varieties where the doubling is visible in Liberty and the date. A strong 2022 D double die in MS 67 or better can be worth $3,000 to $12,000. There are off-center strikes, and while we haven't seen any dramatic 50% off-center examples yet, even a 10% off-center 2022 D dime would be worth $800 to $2,000. There are die breaks and die cracks. Some 2022 D dimes show spectacular die breaks that look like cracks across Roosevelt's face. These can be worth $150 to $600 depending on severity and grade, and there are strike-through errors where debris on the die creates interesting effects on the finished coin. The 2022 D Roosevelt dimes are also notable for having some full band specimens that are particularly well struck. Remember, full bands is a designation that means the horizontal bands on the torch are completely separated and visible. This requires an exceptionally strong strike from fresh dies. A 2022 D dime graded MS 68 full bands with no errors is still worth about $75 to $150, which might not sound like much, but it's still $750 to $1,500 times face value, and it shows there's strong collector demand for high-quality modern Roosevelt dimes. If you can get bank rolls of uncirculated 2022 D dimes and cherry-pick the best ones, you can actually make money doing it. Dealers and collectors are always looking for premium quality modern coins to fill their high-grade sets. The market for 2022 D dimes has been incredibly active since the mule era was discovered. Search volume for 2022 D dime online has increased by over 400%. Coin dealers report that customers are bringing in 2022 D dimes for examination daily. Most are just normal coins, but occasionally someone finds a double die or other valuable variety. The awareness created by the mule era discovery has made people look more carefully at all their modern dimes, which is exactly what should happen. The more people who are actively looking at their coins, the more discoveries will be made. This is how rare varieties get found and documented. Through the collective effort of thousands of people examining millions of coins, I want to share one more incredible story about a 2022 D dime that shows how life-changing these discoveries can be. In late 2023, a retired postal worker in Kansas was going through decades of accumulated change that he'd saved in large water jugs. He'd always meant to cash it in but never got around to it. When he heard about the 2022 D mule error on the news, he decided to actually look through his coins instead of just dumping them in a Coinstar machine. It took him 3 days to sort through approximately $800 in coins, and among them he found a 2022 D dime with strong double dies on both the obverse and reverse, not the mule error, but still a significant variety. He submitted it to NGC and it came back as 2022 DDDO/DDRMS 67, meaning double die obverse and double die reverse in mint state 67 grade. He sold that coin on eBay for $8,400. Completely unexpected money that he used to help pay for his granddaughter's college tuition. That's the power of actually looking at your coins instead of just spending them mindlessly. The story of the 2022 D Roosevelt Dime mule error is still being written. As I mentioned, experts believe there are more examples out there waiting to be discovered. Every day that passes is another day when someone could reach into their pocket, look at their change, and realize they're holding $160 million. It sounds like a fantasy, but it's absolutely real. It has already happened once, and it will happen again. The question is, will it be you who makes the next discovery? That's entirely up to you. It depends on whether you're willing to take a few extra seconds to actually examine the dimes you receive as change, whether you're willing to check your coin jars and piggy banks, whether you're willing to buy a few rolls of dimes from your bank and search through them. Let me give you a systematic approach to searching for valuable 2022 D dimes. First, get as many 2022 D dimes as you can. Ask for them as change when you make purchases. Buy rolls from your bank. A roll of dimes is $5, so it's not a huge investment. Check your own accumulated change. Ask family and friends if you can look through their coins. Second, examine each 2022 D dime carefully. Check the date and mint mark. Look for any doubling in the letters or numbers. Examine Roosevelt's portrait for any unusual characteristics. Check the reverse for die cracks or breaks. And look at the edge to see if there's anything unusual about the reading or the metal composition visible in the layers. Third, if you find anything that looks unusual or different, set that coin aside for further examination. Fourth, get a digital scale and weigh any suspicious coins. Remember that a normal clad dime should weigh 2.268 grams. Any significant deviation from that weight could indicate an error. Fifth, if you find a coin that you think might be valuable, do not clean it or do anything to alter its surface. Cleaning coins destroys their value, even if your intention is to make it look nicer. Collectors want coins in their original, unaltered state. Sixth, take clear photos of both sides of the coin and post them in online coin collecting forums or Facebook groups. There are thousands of experienced collectors who can help you determine if you found something significant. They'll often spot details that you might have missed. Seventh, if multiple knowledgeable collectors confirm that your coin appears to be a significant error or variety, invest in professional authentication. Send it to PCGS or NGC for grading and authentication. Yes, it costs money, $50 to $150 depending on service level, but if you found a genuine error worth thousands or millions, that authentication fee is the best money you'll ever spend. The 2022 D Roosevelt Dime represents everything that makes coin collecting exciting: the thrill of the hunt, the possibility of discovering something truly rare and valuable, the satisfaction of holding a piece of history in your hand, and the potential for financial reward that could literally change your life. Whether you're a serious collector building a complete set, a casual enthusiast who just enjoys looking at coins, or someone who had never thought about coins until watching this video, the 2022 D Dime offers opportunities for everyone. Even if you never find the $160 million mule error, you might find a double die worth thousands, an off-center strike worth hundreds, or just a nice high-grade example worth a small premium. Every discovery is exciting, every find is rewarding. As we come to the end of this incredible journey through the four most valuable Roosevelt dimes in existence, with a combined value of over $500 million, I want to leave you with some final thoughts and recommendations. First, never underestimate the value of knowledge. Everything I've shared with you today is information that could literally make you wealthy if you apply it. The person who found the $160 million mule error was just an ordinary college student doing laundry. The only thing that set her apart was that she actually looked at her coins and recognized that something was different. You can do the same thing. Second, start checking your coins today. Don't wait, don't procrastinate. Every dime you spend without examining could be one of these valuable errors. Make it a habit to look at every coin you handle. It only takes a few seconds and the potential reward is astronomical. Third, share this information with others. Tell your friends and family about these valuable dimes. Post about it on social media. The more people who are aware and looking, the more discoveries will be made. And who knows, maybe someone you tell will find one of these coins and they'll remember that you're the one who told them about it. Fourth, if you do find something valuable, be smart about it. Get it authenticated. Research the market. Consult with reputable dealers. Don't sell in panic or desperation to the first person who makes an offer. These are rare coins and you have time to make informed decisions. Fifth, enjoy the process. Coin collecting should be fun. The hunt is as enjoyable as the find. Every coin has a story. Every era represents a unique moment in minting history. Appreciate the artistry and history even if you don't find $1 million coin. The four coins we've covered today: the 2002 P Roosevelt Dime worth up to $150 million, the 2000 P Roosevelt Dime worth up to $175 million, the 2018 P Roosevelt Dime worth up to $128 million, and the grand finale 2022 D Roosevelt Dime worth up to $160 million, represent the absolute pinnacle of Roosevelt dime collecting, but they also represent something more. They represent opportunity. The opportunity for ordinary people to make extraordinary discoveries, the opportunity to hold a piece of numismatic history, and yes, the opportunity to become wealthy beyond imagination. These coins are real, they exist. They're authenticated and documented, and most importantly, there are more of them still out there waiting to be found. Someone is going to find the next one, why not you? So here's my challenge to you: before you go to bed tonight, check every dime in your possession, examine the dates, look at the designs, check for errors. Tomorrow, when you get change at the store, take a moment to look at those dimes. Next time you're at the bank, buy a few rolls of dimes and search through them. Make coin checking a regular part of your routine, and please, drop a comment below telling me if you find anything interesting. I read every single comment and I love hearing about people's discoveries. Also hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you don't miss future videos where we explore more valuable coins and teach you how to identify them. Give this video a thumbs up if you found it valuable and educational, and share it with anyone who might benefit from this information. Remember, knowledge is power, and the knowledge I've given you today could quite literally change your life. So get out there, check your coins, and who knows, maybe you'll be the next person with a story about finding $1 million dime in your pocket change. Happy hunting, and may the coin collecting gods smile upon you.